Swamp Thing, episode 9, the autonomy lesson. Second to last episode. So let's this one was very juicy. This one had a lot in it. So let's get started. So this episode starts with Woodrow. He's going back to his house. He's talking to his wife Caroline. She hasn't been taking her medicine. Like, all of her medicine vials are completely full. She wakes up out of her sleep and then she starts explaining to Jason. She's like, Jason, like I had a dream. And then she said, I saw a man being dragged into a room with like guns and this, that, and the third. And, he was a dark room and they put him on a table. And the whole time she's talking, he's like, oh shit. Because in our last episode, Woodrow and Sunderland, they ran up on Swamp Thing and they captured him. The situation that his wife was describing was the exact same situation that they did to Swamp Thing himself. So Woodrow's kind of like freaking out because he's like, how does she know all this? And then, she was just like, when they put the guy on the table, I thought it was you, Jason, but it wasn't you. It was a monster. And I'm like, how do you know the monster wasn't your husband? But, but when she described, obviously she's talking about Swamp Thing, but when she described that whole thing, what was going through my mind was like, did the Green tell her this? Did the Green put these images? Like, how does she know all this? So anyway, so they go to the facility because Avery had bought a facility. He had a facility ready for Woodrow to do his experiments. They bring Swamp Thing in, they strap him to the table. Woodrow was being a complete dick about having Swamp Thing in there, and he told everybody to get the F out so he could do his research. So he's doing his research. He's cutting him open. And the way he was cutting him open was very disgusting and very aggressive. He was cutting him open, digging through all his internal organs and everything. And while he's going through his internal organs and going through his body, Swamp Thing actually woke up and then he started screaming. He was just like, I feel everything. I feel all the cuts and all the pulling and the removal of the organs. And then Jason's like, I don't see how that's possible because I just removed your heart and your lungs and your liver and you're still alive. So clearly you don't need these things to survive. And then when he said that, I was like, oh yeah, that does kind of make sense. He was just like, that you have a heart, but you have no tubes, for oxygen to go through. And then he's like, your liver is not he was like, you have organs, but they don't serve a purpose. And then, Swamp Thing said to him, because remember, it's still Alec Holland. Swamp Thing was just like, that can't be possible. What do you mean? He was like, basically, you're not a man who turned into a swamp creature. You're a swamp creature who thinks he's a man. And he even said, that when Alec went into the water, he's like, the plants got a hold of his body, and the plants basically got into his brain and absorbed his consciousness. For lack of a better term, the plant sucked out his soul out of his body. And then his lifeless body went dropping to the bottom of the ocean. The plants absorbed his life force. They absorbed everything. And then because they had the life force of Alan Holland, they had the soul of Alec Holland, the plants basically forged itself into a man because that's what his soul and his memories and what his mind knew. His mind knew he was supposed to have 2 legs, 2 arms. He knew he was supposed to have a heart, so therefore the plant just created a heart. He knew he was supposed to have lungs, so the plants just created lungs. They created themselves, they basically turned themselves into a swamp man, but he's just grass and weeds. Like, he's just a swamp creature. But it's a swamp creature that was infused with the soul of Alec Holland. So now Alec freaking out. Alec's freaking out. Woodrow is just laughing about the whole thing. And then he just continues to cut him open and do what he has to do. Abby and Liz is back. My baby Liz is back. The two of them are talking. And then Liz tells, Abby tells Liz, she's like, listen, she's like, I know Woodrow and Avery did something to him. And then she was like, I need your help, Liz. And Liz was like, of course, we've been friends. And she's like, remember the 7th grade? And I was like, wait, you know her that long? So I was just like, I feel like Liz should be her best friend and not Shauna. But anyway, so she was just like, listen, I got your back. So let's go do what we got to do. So the two of them, they click up, they go down to the Sunderland household, and Caroline, Woodrow's wife, answers the door. They're talking to Caroline. While they're talking to Caroline, Abby quickly noticed right away. She saw the pills, the way that the homegirl had put a pot of water on the stove, and then she left the water on the stove. Then when the pot was whistling, she was just like, what's that noise? And then Abby was like, yo, this bitch is crazy. But then when she saw the pills, She was just like, like, have you been taking your medication and everything? Because she knew what it was. Like, she said that it's advanced Alzheimer's. So Abby was just trying to like just talk to her as like a friend after that. And then she even said she was like, I can come back and visit you. Meanwhile, Liz was snooping around the house. Liz saw a bunch of plans, paperwork, and photographs. And there was one particular photograph that had like a warehouse space in it. Liz took the photo, and then her and Abby bounced. And then but Caroline had even said, she was just like, when you find Jason, just remember that he's a good person. Everything that Jason did, he did it for me. And then Abby understands that now because she's seen the like the Alzheimer's like firsthand. So the two of them, like they do their little detective work, DC Comics, and then they come to find out that the warehouse, Liz recognized the warehouse that picture was from. And when they pulled it up on the internet and compared both pictures, they knew exactly what warehouse it was from. And then they saw that Avery Sunderland's name was attached to it. So they were just like, well, why would Avery Sunderland buy a warehouse this big? And they were like, well, if you want to transport a human swamp creature that you don't want anybody to see, this is where you would take them. So the two of them are headed down there right now, and they're going to go bust Alec Holland out of prison. So then it now takes us to the hospital because remember Daniel, remember when he got bust over the head like 2-3 episodes ago, he's still in the hospital. While he's in the hospital, the same, black coat, trench coat wearing Constantine-like figure, that spoke to him when he was on set for the Blue Devil movie, the one that gave him the power, and he told him the one that he made the deal with. And he was just like, I'd give anything to, to be the Blue Devil, to have that role. The guy gave him the role, but then he told him he couldn't leave Murray until he helped Abby Arcane. Well, that time has come. So homeboy shows up. He's talking to Daniel on the bed, and he was just like, bro, he was like, it's your time. It's time for you to be the Blue Devil. And then he was just like, I was the Blue Devil already, and I got paid $651 a day for it. And then he was like, dude, he was like, did you think we made you the Blue Devil just so you could appear in a movie? He was like, nah, like this is what you do now. He's like, but you got to choose it. He's like, I can't choose it for you. But he was like, but before you make your decision, let me show you something. Bam, uses his magic powers, and he showed Daniel, Abby, and Liz, he showed them the future of what happens when the two of them go down to the warehouse to try to save Swamp Thing. He showed them that, because Avery Sunderland, of course, Avery has his goon squad. He's got his guys with the guns and everything, the police force, task force, whatever you want to call them. He has them guarding the building. Those guys basically find Abby and Liz, chase them into a closet. When the two of them, they're like, freeze, come out of the closet or else. The two of them come out of the closet. Abby's like, we're not a threat. And I'm just like, that's Liz's line. and then both of them got their hands up, and then while they got their hands up, Liz basically told Abby to run, and then when she told Abby to run, they killed Liz first, obviously, and then they killed Abby, so both Abby and Liz died. So then he snapped him out of the dream sequence, and then Daniel was like, "What the hell was that?" And he was like, "That's the future." He's like, "Well, it's a possible future. It's one of many different possible futures." But he told him, he said that you could be the one to prevent this future from happening. He said the only thing that you got to do is embrace the Blue Devilism. And then he's like, "Well, why can't you just like call the authorities or call the cops or whatever?" And he was just like, "Well, that's not how this works. Like you were here to protect Abby Arcane. Now's the time for you to protect Abby Arcane. It's time for you to be the Blue Devil." And go do what you got to do. Daniel kind of accepted it at that point. He was just like, well, shit. He's like, maybe I'll get you right this time. Because, I guess he didn't like his performance the first time. And then he starts like wigging out. He starts turning blue. The blue flames show up. They don't show us what he looked like. But then they showed you the shadow in the background where like the horns started coming out of his head. And then he started turning into a monster. Abby and Liz end up going down to the warehouse. They sneak in through the back. While they're sneaking in through the back, they hear like the goons or whatever. I don't know what, like the goons heard them come in, and the two of them go hide in the closet, just like the dream sequence predicted. So while they're in the closet now hiding, the soldiers show up. They're just like, they're like, come out with your hands up or whatever. And then, just like in the dream sequence, Abby, they're supposed to open the door and then walk out before they get murdered. And once the power goes out, Woodrow, at that point, Woodrow had already taken Swamp Thing's organ. He took his heart out. He had all that stuff in a briefcase. And then when the lights went out, like the goons, they ran up on Woodrow and they was like, yo, something's going on. We got to get you out of here. And then he was just like, I can't leave the specimen. And he was just like, yo, the specimen's going to be moved. We're getting that taken care of. Let's get out of here. The rest of the goons, they got the guns pointed to Abby and Liz, who were behind the door. They're telling them to come out. And then, just like I said, just before the two of them were about to come out, all of a sudden, everything goes black. The blue light comes on, and then it just looked like a blue light ball of light just floating around. And then you kind of saw like like a blue shadow with some horns and like a devil face, and then one guy got lit on fire, one guy got roasted, the blue flame went in somebody else's mouth and burnt him from the inside. And they did a very good job of letting us see him but not see him at the same time. Like, they were very quick cuts. They were showing us like his silhouette and everything. They didn't actually show us what he looked like. And then, while everybody's getting murdered, Liz and Abby, because like the door that they were behind had a grate on the floor, and they saw the blue light coming into the room. And then, Liz was like, what the hell is going on? And she was like, bitch, I don't know. I'm in here with you. And then, meanwhile, the blue devil just roasted all the goons and he killed everybody. Then he opens the door that has Liz and Abby in it, and then Abby and Liz look up at him, and you actually see his full body, his full form, and what he looks like. And then, and then he dips, he goes away. Abby and Liz is just like Liz is like, what the F? And then Abby, at this point, Abby done seen so much shit at this point. She just looked at Liz and she was like, girl, one problem at a time. And then, so the two of them leave. They go find Alec. As soon as they find Alec, like on the table with everything, like he's chained up on the table. When Liz saw him, when you go back and watch this episode, the entire time that they're in the room trying to get Alec off that table, look at Liz's reaction the whole time. That shit is hilarious. Because, and I didn't realize this, Liz is aware of what happened to Alec. She was told what happened to Alec. She, Abby briefed her on everything that happened to Alec. This is the first time Liz has actually seen Alec. And then Liz was just like, hells to the nah. And she was kind of like, like holding back. And then, they got the cuffs off, they got the chains off him or whatever. They turned off the light that was keeping him down. And then his regenerative powers kicked in. He created new organs for himself, a new heart. He sewed himself up, and then he got off the table. So they're trying to help him off the table. And then Alec was just like, I need to go back. I need to go back and see if it's true. And then Abby's like, see if what's true. I got to go back to Skeeter Cove. We're going back to Skeeter Cove. He's like, I must go back to Skeeter Cove to see if it's true. So then he goes storming out of the room. And then when the three of them leave the warehouse together, Daniel gets up off the floor covered in blood. Because the thing is, it's a situation with him where he can transform into the Blue Devil, but he can also turn it off. Just like Killer Frost on The Flash, just like the Incredible Hulk. He can turn himself to Daniel, and he can turn himself into the Blue Devil. But he's not at the point yet where he remembers exactly what he did. So when he woke up and saw all the blood and the death and destruction and everything, he was kind of like, oh shit. And he just got out of Dodge before anybody blamed him for it. And Abby and Liz didn't even know that he was even in the building. So that's a secret right now that, that nobody knows about. So they get outside, and then, again, Swamp Thing, he's on his way to Skeeter Cove. And then Liz is just like, all right. She was like, Abby was like, I got to go with him. I have to go with him. I have to be there with him. And she was like, all right, you go do that. And I'm going to go figure out what Avery's up to. I'm going to figure out what that blue shit was. And I'm going to try to put these pieces together. 1, 2, 3, break. Liz leaves. Abby goes and follows Alec, to the swamp. They get to Skeeter Cove, down to Skeeter Cove. And then he goes into the water. And then he's just like, it's true. He was like, he's like, you were trying to save Alec Holland. And then he pulls like a dead corpse out of the water. And then he says to Abby, he's like, here's Alec Holland. Alec Holland is dead. And then she's like, no. And then he's all like, no, I am now the Swamp Thing. Because again, like his soul is inside the swamp stuff. So, and then that's how they ended it there. Maddie, he's getting drunk at the bar, and then his real daddy showed up. His real daddy Delroy showed up. The two of them had a conversation about his mom because he's still upset over the situation. He gets drunk, and then while he's drinking and driving while he's in a police car. And that's all I'm gonna say about that. He ended up crashing into a pole, and then he's in the car, knocked the F out. So that was it for Maddie. And Lord knows what's going on with Maddie. The Sunderland gang, Mrs. Sunderland, she's basically like, because Black Manta Daddy, she hasn't called him back yet because the two of them had a deal. They struck that contract, they put that contract work together, and then she hasn't heard from him. So she's just like, bro, she was like, my husband's not involved in this. You're dealing with me directly. Call me back. And then, she was just like, you'll call me back. And then she hung up the phone. And Avery runs up on her and he's like, you tried to get me killed and you conspired along with Maria, you done conspired along with the sheriff and y'all tried to get me killed. So what he did was he paid the judge to sign a court order to deem his wife legally insane. Obviously it's bullshit, but Avery Sunderland has everybody in his pocket. So they signed the court order. The nut house people, they run the crazy nurses. They run up on Maria Sunderland. They snatch her up. They throw her in the back of the crazy car, and they take her to the nut house. She's locked up in the big old room. I'm surprised she didn't. I don't think she had the white jacket on yet. She didn't have the restraining jacket on yet, but she was in the room. Sunderland goes in the room to talk to her, and then she's just like, she was like, "How did you survive, motherfucker?" And then he's just like, "You." He's like, the sheriff tried to expire against me. He's like, "I wanted you by my side, but." He's like, you won't spend. Basically, like, she was just like, and Maria was just like, look, motherfucker. She was like, because he wanted to know why he tried to get her killed. And then she was just like, all the lies and the cheating and more cheating. She said, you're lucky I ain't try to kill your ass sooner. And I was like, facts. So, but he was just like, well, checkmate, bitch. Like, you locked up, ain't nothing you can do about it. So then he leaves. And then she's just left to ponder and stew, with her own anger. Which means now that he knows this entire situation, now that the truth has been revealed, obviously next he's coming after the sheriff because he gonna wax that ass when he sees her and not in the way that we're used to. So thank you for tuning in. That was episode 9, the autonomy lesson. We finally got some Blue Devil action, some Blue Devil action. Good to see that. I'm very interested. This show needs to continue. We need to hashtag save Swamp Thing because this show needs to continue because I want to know what's up with the Blue Devil now. I want to know what's going on with the Maddie situation, with the Sunderland situation, with Woodrow, because even Woodrow, there was a scene where after Woodrow had left the warehouse, he went back to his house. And then his wife was in the room up against the wall, like shaking. And then when he looked, he saw that she basically took all the pills at once because in the beginning of the episode, he told her, take your medicine, take your medicine. She took the medicine, all right. She took all the medicine and now she passed out on the floor. So obviously, now that he has those plant organs in his briefcase, he's going to try to synthesize something to save his wife because now she's really about to die. Like I said, I'm here. I'm definitely here for one more episode to go. And then we put the cap on the swamp adventure. And like I said, we'll talk about it. Season / series finale. Hopefully not really coming up. And when January comes, from the looks of things, I'm not sure when Titans starts again. I didn't get the official word on the Titans date. If anybody knows when Titans starts, let me know in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about today's episode of Swamp Thing. And once Swamp Thing is concluded, I believe the next show that we're going to review when superhero television shows resume, the first show up I think will be Batwoman. So again, thank you for tuning in. Hit the notification bell so you can get notified when new videos from my channel pop up. Definitely leave a comment, like, and subscribe. I definitely try to answer all the comments to the best of my ability. I love everybody that's been watching Swamp Thing up until this point. We got one episode to go, guys. So take care. And for the Blue Devil, for Swamp Thing, I'm out this bitch.